Hey adventurers, today I'm going to talk about Gambits. Now, you might be wondering, what the hell does he mean by Gambits? And when I use the term Gambits, it's anything you're using to propel your player through one of these adventures or these games. I'd recommend, if you haven't, start with the previous video talking about the basic formula outline, where I talk about anchor points and the places you want to send someone to, because that's really step one. And then step two is gambits and figuring out how you're going to get them from their home to the first stop, to the second stop, to the third, and then to the final place, right? The surprise party or whatever you want. So the term gambit in like the dictionary basically is like a risky maneuver. And I liked this so much more than saying clue or riddle or puzzle, because it's not always a clue, it's not always a riddle, it's not always a puzzle. Sometimes it's picking somebody up and taking them somewhere. Sometimes it is one of those things. It just kind of varies, but Gambit felt all-encompassing, and it kind of made sense. So when we talk about Gambits, I like to put them into three major buckets. The first one is dead drops, which is essentially any time a chest or envelope or instructions is literally placed somewhere to find. The second one is handoffs, and that's where an envelope or a chest or something is given by a human being, whether it's somebody in the service industry, like a bartender, or whether it's a friend or a stranger or somebody pretending to jog. And then number three is decodes, which is any type of puzzle or figuring out where to go next. So I'm actually going to do three separate videos focusing on each one, but for the basic idea, there's kind of a reason why you might want to have a handoff here or a decode here or a dead drop here. And it's both logistically and also to make it fun. A really good example is when you start an adventure, this person, their brain is still wrapping around the fact that they're doing something, right? And so you don't want to hit them in the face with a really complex puzzle or decode or a cipher. Like that kind of sucks if you're not prepared for it. So a really easy example for this is, head to the park and find the statue of 5 children playing, right? Whatever your local park has or anything you have in your area. There are statues everywhere. And then, it could be the sightline gambit where it's like that statue's looking at what you have to find next, and there's a chest sitting in a branch, or there's an envelope taped to a tree or pinned to a tree or something like that. So that's a dead drop, and it's difficult and kind of risky for you because you're putting something in a public place, but it's not super difficult for your players to find, and it's a fun experience. And so it allows them to kind of warm up their brains, and then maybe they open up that chest and inside of it is an encoded message that tells them where to go next. So then the next thing is a decode, right? First one's a dead drop, then a decode. And maybe that sends them to a coffee shop or a bar, and the barista or the bartender, says, "Ooh, we've been expecting you. Order whatever you want. Everything's been paid for. Here's your next envelope. Here's your next clue." And it's a wonderful feeling. And so now you've put this thing into a nice equation. You have your first stop is a dead drop, and then maybe your second stop is a decode, and then after that is a handoff. You want to use decodes in fun ways to help kind of give you a buffer too, because imagine doing an adventure where every single one's a dead drop. You are stressed every time, you're going to a park and you're like, sure hope there isn't like a soccer tournament or like a huge family reunion going on, and I've already given my player instructions on where to go next, and they're coming to this park and you have to drop this thing off, and then you have to watch a dead drop. If you're gonna tape an envelope to a tree, you can't just go to the next location. You got to stay there. And so that's why it's kind of nice to have a decode where you send someone to a plaque and you give them an Ottendorf cipher, which I'll talk about in a later video, and they decode the message. That plaque isn't going anywhere. It's super, super risk-free. It's a little bit more work ahead of schedule because you have to write the cipher, you have to encode it yourself, and you have to make sure that you've given them enough information. But past that, it's really easy to do, right? It's fun and it's simple, and now you've done your dead drop to stop 1. They go to stop 2, where it's a statue, they have to decode a message. It sends them to stop 3, and you're able to circumvent stop 2 and just go straight to stop 3. It's wonderful. So keep that in mind that, there are some places it's just going to be better to do a dead drop. Some places it's just going to be better to do a handoff. Some, it's going to be better to do a decode. Thank you so much. If you like what I do, please go ahead and like and subscribe here. You can always support me on Patreon at patreon.com/constructedadventures. Every time I do these, I always try to add a little bit more for my Intrepid Adventure patrons. So if you do want to support me a little bit more, I like to have some goodies and some things just for them. And finally, please, if you have any recommendations or things you want me to talk about, go ahead and put them in the comment section below. And I'm happy to try to cover them in future videos. Until then, happy adventuring.